Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Robert Rivera with Who's On First, and today, who do I got for you? I got former Major League umpire Greg Gibson. And Greg, how are you? Introduce yourself.
I'm doing well. I'm happy. I'm retired, and life's good.
All right. So now you retired, you're done, and you're enjoying the retirement. I know your strike zone now financially is a little smaller.
Yeah, yeah, but that's okay. I'll take it. Um,
So I
you
mean,
know,
now that you're retired, I mean, what are you doing now? I mean, what are the things that you couldn't do before that you're enjoying now?
Last fall I got to go tailgate football, which I can't wait for toe meet and leather this year. I got to go to 4 college tailgates. This Saturday I'm going golfing with a men's group. I've been able to do things. It's kind of they everybody laughs at me because there's just my kids when they were at home. My youngest graduated 2 years ago, so when I came home, that was my world. And so I didn't, whatever the boys wanted to do, that was Kyle Cameron to Carter. It's what I did. I coached sports. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I got out there and tried. I wanted to be with them, and I wanted them to know that uh, you know I am your dad, and I do love you, and I know I'm gone a lot, but I'm going to do my best to make up for the time I've been gone.
Right.
Um, but I'm getting to do, ride my Harley. Uh,
Spend more time
I
with the
mean,
wife.
it's just I can sit out on the deck of my porch and drink a cup of coffee, read a book. It's the lifestyle. Everybody thinks it's awesome. The wear and tear of 32 years on the road took its toll. 30 of 32 years.
Wow.
Of course, we had COVID, and then I was hurt a year. But um, you know, it, it's just you can't imagine the travel and being gone and changing beds and there was off seasons that literally I got home, I let my body rest for about 2 weeks, and then I spent all winter in physical therapy.
Oh
One winter
wow.
I spent uh, the first 8 weeks I was home. I took 2 weeks off. They wanted to do surgery on my back, and I did PT 6 days a week, November, December into January before the retreat, before I left in part of January, part of February. Before I mean, it was nonstop. It was even on Saturdays, and so to be in the shape that you need to be, it isn't absolutely to umpire the game; it's to umpire the 120 plus games you're going to work from spring training all the way through the season. Our guys work more games than any other official, and you're working behind the plate every fourth day. If you can't work the plate, we don't want you. It isn't like you're going to show up, work third, third, third. We want you're going to take your turn behind the plate because
Oh,
you get hurt doing the job. You can't say so much in football and basketball. Our guys get hurt, and I say hurt. I mean they get hurt.
mhm.
You take a couple shots to the head on a foul ball, yeah, it
You
leads
start
to,
you start seeing people that weren't there a couple
yeah.
of
I
years
mean it. You get your bell rung a few times, and you're like, it's so our guys get physically hurt. Our guys are the physical demands is not just on the field, but there was a couple times where in the big leagues I went. Well, in 2017, I went twice during that season, 30 days straight, all 4 time zones, no
Wow.
days off.
Wow.
So 30 days straight, like we went in May and then again in August. And during that 30 days, we hit all 4 time zones. Now
Wow.
that's hard. I
Yeah.
mean, that's hard. Either you start in the West Coast and work your way back, or you're starting in the East Coast and working your way that way. But that's what people don't realize about the job. I mean, our guys are out there a lot, and so yeah, the wear and tear on them physically, mentally, it's tough. It's extremely tough. And now that I'm home, nobody yells at you on the couch.
I mean, let's be honest. Who says I want to be a major league umpire? Where you're the most vilified, the most scrutinized, the most yelled at official in all of sports. Who
It,
says, "Hey, I want to be a major league umpire"?
I don't think you say it. I think you go to umpire school because I was a 22-year-old kid trying to find myself, and it was like I walked on the field, and this makes sense. And when you're young, you don't know what, and I wasn't married, didn't have kids. And so, once you get there, you stay there, because, you did work a lot of years to get there.
Right.
And so, it's one of those things where, and to be a major league umpire, you're the best in the world at what you do. And I know a lot of people second guess guys, and a lot of people social media now. My last 2 years on the field, 21 and 22, was when social media was getting bad. And I would say my goal every day is to not be a meme. I mean, you just don't want to be a meme. And there's a couple out there with me in it, but the demands of the job, it's not fair. It's not fair.
Yeah. I mean, and you're talking the major league level, and it's not fair. I couldn't even imagine what the minor league guys are going through. I remember one of the guys saying that for a snack, or they would give him a couple of hot dogs and a pretzel, and I'm like, oh, a couple of hot dogs and a pretzel. He goes,
Well,
if you're lucky, they're warm, and you're like,
well, things are better today
better.
for the guys than what they were when I went through. They all get their own room in the minor leagues. They're doing, even on the player side and the umpire side, because it was a life of poverty in the minor leagues. Didn't matter. We were all fighting to get to the big leagues. It didn't matter if you were a player, manager, umpire, trainer. Everybody in the minor leagues, their one goal is to make it to the major leagues, because the minor leagues are tough, and they're tough for a reason. Um, it's not for the weak of heart to go through the minor leagues, and to travel like, they call it the bus leagues. When you're traveling, we packed up a car or a van, and we were gone. I didn't go home in the minor leagues. I didn't have an off day to fly home. There was years I left in the end of February, and I got home for like a week, in maybe September, and then I was off to instructional ball or something, and then I got home the end of October, and I had 2 months at home, and then I taught at Harry Wendelstead's Umpire School. So we were right back at it. So there were a lot of years I wasn't home for 8 years of my life. Basically, I wasn't home. I lost touch with friends and family, and so it's going through the minor leagues is tough, but to get there, that's the goal. Uh, that's why they call it the show.
That's right. So I mean, I mean, we talk about all that stuff going through the physical, I'm sure the mental side of this game, and the wife, the kids. I mean, what are the things that I'm sure you got to witness firsthand some great stuff? What were your favorite moments?
In the big leagues.
Yes. In the minor
Um,
leagues, in the big leagues, wherever.
the minor leagues were just fun. You didn't know any better. Everybody, it was just the experience of the minor leagues and the different towns, ballparks, a lot of history, some of the places we went to, but in the major leagues, I called Randy Johnson's perfect game. I called Clayton Kershaw's no hitter.
Wow.
If Hanley Ramirez hadn't made an error in the top of the sixth, I'd have had two perfect games. Um, so that was the only thing that went bad with Kershaw the whole night. There wasn't even a walk. There was one runner reach base on Hanley Ramirez error. And so I still blame Hanley for that. So if you're out there somewhere, Hanley, thanks a lot. You're retired now, so I can take a shot at you. I couldn't that night. But, um, to walk on the field for, postseason, to walk on the field with some of the guys I really enjoyed walking on, that was, the experience every day. And I would say, it kind of, my career kind of ended abruptly. But I would always tell, I tell players, I tell umpires, I tell everybody. I tell young kids at some point they make you take the uniform off. Enjoy every day you get to wear it, because someday they say you just can't do it anymore. And that's kind of where I knew I was at. And so I enjoyed maybe the last 5, 6 years. I appreciated it more than I did early in my career. And I would try to tell the young umpires, enjoy every day. You're not promised tomorrow. Enjoy every day. I know it's tough at home, and you're hearing, you're raising kids and your wife's calling. It's tough, and you're traveling, and enjoy every day, because it's a blessing. At some point, it ends, and it ends quick. I turned around, and I was a senior guy in the league, and it seemed like, I still wanted to consider myself a young guy in the league, but no, I wasn't. I was, and it happens fast. And I tell these guys, you don't realize how fast your career is going to go. And so enjoy every moment of it. and prepare for retirement, which is what I did. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're all told eventually you can no longer be in the game.
yeah.
And that goes for players and umpires, coaches, managers, everybody. You can no
Yep.
longer be in the game. All right. I mean, so that's some great stuff. So I mean, now you go to the umpire school at the Wendelstadt School. I mean, when I met you there, you were having a blast. This was great stuff. This is you're teaching all these guys, and these guys are running around. And I remember you saying, man, that minor league, those instructors at the Wendelstadt, they said they don't need me around here. I'm like a hood ornament over
No,
here. I'm here along
no.
for the ride.
It's and that's the thing about it that I watch the young guys. I mean, that's it was fun for me the last couple years to have young guys come up and join the crew and seeing them have success. Because at the end of the day, they don't miss me at all, and I don't care what your name is, they don't miss you. You can put any name you want in front of that. It's blankety blank who. They don't need the game's going to go on without you, and it didn't stop. And it didn't stop when players stopped playing. It sure didn't stop when some of our umpires stopped umpiring. The
Yeah.
game goes on, and so that's the cool thing about it. And if you do your job and you train the next generation to be better than you were, that's what it's all about. And that's one of the things that I wasn't at school this year, but that when I was there last year, one of the things was to go around and talk to the instructors. Not necessarily the students, but the instructors. So anyway,
I mean, so now here we are, 2024, and now everybody has that little box on the screen and they go into the dugout and they replay 14,000 times when you got make that call. You know what I mean? And it's so I mean, what do you think of the atmosphere towards the umpires in today?
well, I will say this, and I'm sure the league probably is not going to appreciate it, but I'm retired and I'll say it. When they allowed the iPads in the dugouts, that's what's led to a lot of this. Because once again, the iPads were not supposed to be something. I've seen videos, they turn the iPad around. The iPads basically have the television um, screen up.
Yeah.
And there is games that we have shown, our union showed that one television broadcast would have it in the box in the exact same game. I'm not talking about a game over here and a game over here. I'm talking the same game. You put Club A and Club B covering the same game. They're playing each other. And Club A has it in the box and Club B has it out of the box. Come on. I mean, no wonder when you give the players the access, these guys are competitive. And if they think they got cheated, yeah, they're going to get mad. So allowing for the league to allow the iPads in the dugouts, okay, you created the monster. Guess what? Now you're going to get it. If they would take the box off television and just let the players look at it, okay, maybe. I don't know. I'm not on the field anymore, but I'm going to tell you, I've seen too much of him going. When I was on the field in 22, we had a situation with a club where Rob Drake made a great call, and they looked at it on the iPad. And next thing you know, we got two ejections that should have never been. That should have never been. You got to play right. So, long story short, when the league allowed that, okay, here's what you got.
Now
So,
what about the days of them running down the tunnel?
that was funny. We were in Miami one night years ago, and uh, I had to play at first base. I mean, I remember it was the Reds and the Marlins, and the Marlins all jumped up, wanted to scream at me, and they went running down. It was like 5 or 6 of them went running down the tunnel, and then they came back up and they didn't say anything, and I was screaming in the dugout, "Hey, what you got? What is it? Huh? I don't hear you now." I mean, I was screaming. I screamed at them for about 2 innings. Probably shouldn't have done that, but I did, and it was one of those things where they ran down the tunnel, and it was gamesmanship. But you know, um, long story short, the guys do a great job. Um, some days it's just tough, and some days it's like any job. Uh, some days you're going to have a great day at work, and some days you're not going to have a great day at work. But when
That's
you look at the umpire's body of work over 40 plate jobs, how did they do?
yeah.
And they're really outstanding at what they do. And that's what I think the league forgets, and that's what I know the media forgets, and that's what I don't think Joe Public really understands.
Yeah.
The demand for absolute perfection every night is not going to happen. If baseball was perfect, there'd be robots out there playing and robots out there umpiring.
Yeah.
And they think they're going to replace the guys with robot umpires or whatever, but and I keep hearing that. But the long story short, when you take the human element out of the game, who's going to watch it?
Right. I see the level of respect for the umpires has just gone down so bad. I mean, the way they're talking to the officials, the stuff that they're saying, I mean, it's just like not even like a human being. You're like you're a piece of garbage out there trying to screw me. And it just I'm going, what is all that about? Why are they letting
Well,
this continue?
so let's think about the situation. The average player now spends no time in the minor leagues. They rush them through. And when they rush them through, they really don't get a feel, same thing for the umpires, you learned a lot. I learned a lot in AAA from Pete Celestino. You never heard that name. Pete Celestino was my crew chief, my first crew chief in AAA. And he sat down and told me how the world works. And it was funny. We used to have a lot, when I came to the big leagues, you had veteran players on a club. And I'm talking veteran as far as 10, 12, 15 years on a team. And the senior crew chiefs would walk over if there was a problem, and if they had a rapport or they would say something to a senior player, a guy with more than 10 years, 12 years, and they would say, hey, and they would try to handle it that way. You don't have players at big league level with that much. You look at a roster, and if you find somebody with 10 years, that's a team with, I'm talking the whole of the starting nine, I'd say 6 or 7 of them had more than 10 years. They had time. And with time, you understand the game and you understand the element. You know, Back then we also didn't have social media, we didn't have cell phones, but you had a relationship. It was sometimes a love-hate relationship, but you could walk over to a Jeff Francoeur, or you could walk over. I'm trying to think, even a Derek Jeter, and say, "Hey," and they sometimes would say something, and you would say, "Hey, you help." I've said stuff to Torrey Hunter. Hey, what about this player? But you have the players coming up and flying through the minor leagues, and they don't spend any time. And another thing too, you don't have a lot of managers that played at the big league level. They didn't spend any time in the minor leagues managing, so they really don't know how to treat the guys and talk to the guys. And you don't see occasionally. I laughed the other day. I saw Bruce Bochy hand his glasses to Laz, but that's because he's known Laz forever. Um,
Yeah,
but
it's Eric
the the
Backus, Eric
the
Backus and
vet,
Laz Diaz.
right, the veteran managers. You don't see Bob Melvin. When he needs to say something, he does. When Boch needs to say something, he does. And I'm trying to think. Some of the managers I'd look at and I would like. And especially the coaches. The coaches now all come out. I mean, they're college guys. Uh, we opened the season in 22, and I got to work the plate the first night. Second night, I'm at third base, and I said to the third base coach, he looked at me. He said, "Hi, Gibby. I'm so and so. Blah blah blah." And he said, "They said you've been around a while." And I'm like, "Yeah, how many years is this?" And blah blah blah. And I said, "And where were you last year?" I said, "Congratulations on your promotion." And he said, "Stanford, Stanford."
Stanford.
And I kind of was like, well, that right there goes to show that, uh, he didn't spend any time in the bus leagues. He didn't spend any time. And some of the guys are going to take that as an insult. If you've walked in my shoes and you've been through the minor leagues and you've been through what we went through, yeah, it's just the game has changed. And that's why I was a dinosaur. And that's why another reason I needed to get out, because I saw where the game was going, and I don't necessarily like everything about it. I still love baseball. I'll always love baseball. But the Russian pushing players through, and then the other thing too is the pitchers especially, who can throw 98, 99, and when that guy burns his arm up, we're going to go shake a tree and 5 more fall out, and another group of guys throw 99 plus. You
Yeah.
know, I came up with guys like Maddox and Glavine, and they weren't overpowering pitchers, Al Leiter, but man, they knew how to get people out and ground balls, and they had a lot of success. I remember Earl Hershiser, when I was a young umpire, and so the expectations today and the game's changed. It's just rear back and throw hard, and now we've got the DH, so all the way through. So the National League doesn't really have the strategy they once did. You lay down a suicide squeeze and you got the infield panicking because they're like, what do we do? Nobody bunts, nobody moves the runner over. Everybody's launch angle this, launch angle that, and you got a bunch of people playing fantasy baseball with $1 million ball players. And don't get me wrong, they're still the most talented athletes I think in the world of all the sports. To hit a baseball going that fast, to do something with a bat in your hands, or to throw a ball like that, or to anytime to what these athletes, it was very awesome for me to be a part of that, because they were the greatest athletes in the world in my opinion. I still to this day, I've heard people say it's hard to tackle somebody. It's also hard to hit a 99. It's hard to hit a 94-mile-an-hour slider with a 3-2 count and the bases loaded in Yankee Stadium. It's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard to call, and it's incredibly hard to hit.
Yeah.
And these guys, everybody's like, "Oh, this guy's terrible. This guy's this and that." And I'm like, "They're the best in the world at what they do."
Right.
So it's amazing to watch the players, but there's just not a lot of guys to say, "Hey, well, wait a minute. We're not going to act like that. We're not going to act like that."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it trickles down.
I was watching the Mets game, and the pitcher threw his glove into the fans and into the crowd, and then went on TV and said, "Hey, this is probably the worst team that I've ever played for in my life." And I'm going, "Ooh, oh boy,"
Yeah.
and everybody was real calm. But I mean, he got put on waivers, but I was like, that's not what you say. You get
You
to
know,
that school, yeah, it's hard.
there's unfortunately, and a lot of that is just it's not necessarily it's society as a whole today. You don't appreciate what the people did before you. I always appreciated the guys that walked in my shoes before me, and there's not a lot of that today.
Yeah.
You know, they don't. I'll tell you this story. Filling in, it was the first base coach in Tampa was the Big Bopper. He played for the Reds. Lee May. Lee May was coaching first base for the Tampa Bay Rays. And one of the players got to first base and turned around and threw his gloves at Lee May. And I went, whoa. and the guy turned around and looked at me, and I don't want to say his name. I said, that's Lee May, the Big Bopper?
Yeah.
I don't think you ought to throw your batting gloves at him. And the guy looked at me and said, what? I said, that's the Big Bopper, Lee
Yeah.
May. And he was like, you could tell, I was like, and Lee May walked over to me later and he said, that's a shame. He said, an umpire knows who I am, and the player has no idea what I did. And I said, Mr. May, I know what you did, because I know the stories of listening to my grandfather talk about, he was a huge Reds fan, talk about Lee May and the Big Bopper. And he was like, that's, he said, young man, he would tip his cap when he'd see me and things like that. But, they don't realize the players that walked in front of them, and in society as a whole, we don't appreciate what was done for us. It's
Yep.
just not baseball. It's everywhere we're at.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's another reason I'm glad I'm out, because I would be saying to some players, until you get some dirt in your shoes, or you get insurance, or you've been with, when I came up my first 5 years, I was mute. I didn't talk. And now they all, as soon as they get there, they feel like they have a platform. How about you prove some things first before you get on Instagram and say something about an umpire?
Yeah.
And it's just society. This thing right here, it changed the world, and COVID made it worse. So long and short of it is, baseball's still a great game. I still am very proud of my years, and I'm still very proud to say I'm a retired major league umpire. But I'm going to tell you right now, in about 25, 30 minutes, I'm going to have burgers on the grill, and I'm going to sit out and watch the sunset, and put my feet up.
I'm with you. I'm gonna do a chopped cheese though. We gotta We got some. My wife bought these half-pound burgers, and then we're gonna do a chopped cheese. I was like, she's like, what's a chop? I said, it's a Bronx thing. I'll show you. I'll show you. It's a
Yeah, here you go.
This is right. But anyway, I mean, yeah. So I mean, to explain that box, I'm really curious about that shadow box behind there on the wall. What you got in there?
So that's actually from. So here's a funny story. I'm from Eastern Kentucky,
Okay.
and that is actually the night that I worked Kershaw's game. Um,
Oh, okay.
we were walking on the field in Dodger Stadium, and so if you've ever heard "Achy Breaky Heart"
Yeah.
and Billy Ray Cyrus, well, Billy Ray Cyrus is from the town right over from where I'm from.
Okay.
His claim to fame is Flatwoods, Kentucky. I grew up in Ashland. Well, anyway, we're walking on the field at Dodger Stadium, and I said to the security guard, I said, "Hey, is that Billy Ray Cyrus?" And he said, "Billy who?" Um, so I realized he's walking off the field, and I said, "Hey, Billy." I said, "Greg Gibson, Ashland, Kentucky," and he's like, "Oh yeah, 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 yeah." So anyway, long story short, um, Billy Ray was on the field to throw out the pitch with now his former ex-wife Letitia Finley, who actually was a year ahead of me in school, and so Billy came to the plate meeting, and I took a picture, and on that crew was Jerry Davis, myself, Phil Cuzzy, and a very young Quinn Wilcott, and then it's Don Mattingly, and oh heck, can't think of his name right now. But anyway, so we took that picture, and then the jersey is from where I called Kershaw. Like I said, if Hanley Ramirez don't make an error in the top of the six, I worked two perfect games. And the cool thing about it is Jerry Davis was on the field with me when I worked Randy Johnson's perfect game.
Oh
Jerry and I
wow.
worked a lot of years together, regular season games together. And so for him to be on the field with me with that one, he was at second base too, like he was with Johnson's. Um, so I always enjoyed looking out at Chief. Uh, but uh, long story short, that's the event. That's the game that I worked, and so I don't put up too many things, but I did put up that because you know it means something to me, and I don't have one thing up in my house, not one thing. I've got stuff put up and stored, and someday my boys will drag it out. Maybe we'll see. My grandkids, I hope. But the long and short of it is, if that I never wanted the job to define me, because if I leave this world and that's the only thing that defines me, man, talk about a wasted life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son. I'm Greg. I'm not the umpire, and
Yep.
and to get one of the things about it is it allows me to do things like we talked about earlier to do next week. So, long story short, I've been blessed. I had a wonderful career. Appreciate so much you reaching out to me, and for all you fans out there that think the umpires are screwing your team, they're not, because I can assure you this: their feet hit the floor every day, and they say, "Please God, don't let me mess up tonight." Or
Yeah.
today or whatever it is. Because as an umpire, I knew I missed it before anybody else. And I can tell you, I don't have sleepless nights anymore over missing a play. There's times I can think back in my career when I really messed up. And I spent, I was up. It wore on me
Yep.
because I took pride in my job. I took pride in being who I was. And if I could say anything to the umpires now, you know, take pride in what you do, master your craft, and no matter what level you're at, work at it,
Yep.
because um, you have you have an expectation you should want to live up to. So work hard at it.
Yep, absolutely. And that buddy of mine was in California, and he was driving a golf cart, and he had I'm gonna kick myself for this, but he had this Major League Umpire Hall of Famer in his golf cart, and he says, "Hey, you want to speak
Had
to
to be Doug Harvey.
Doug Harvey? Doug Harvey, there it is, Doug Harvey." And he put Doug Harvey on the phone, and I still hear him today. This is years ago. And he goes, "How are you, young man?" I said, "Good." He goes, "I hear you're a good umpire." I said, he goes, "I'd like to thank you for umpiring." He goes, "What level?" I said, "I do little league, I do college, I do men's league." He goes, He goes, thank you. He goes, we need good umpires out there. Thank you so much. I said, oh my God, I'm really speaking to Doug Harvey. I mean, he could have knocked me over with a feather. And he turns around and he goes, your friend here is a nice guy. He talked about you, and send him your address. I'm going to send you something. He sent me an autographed picture of himself, and I still have it today. And I'm a big Roberto Clemente fan. So when I put Doug Harvey together with the Roberto Clemente, oh my God, forget it. That was a big to do for me. But the guys that are umpiring out there, hey, I'm sure we thank you for all they do on all levels, and we appreciate you guys making those plays, calling those games for everybody. And Gibby, thank you for being on. It was a pleasure, and I wish you luck. And we're gonna talk again. I got some connections going also. We'll talk. But
Sounds good, brother.
I got some stuff going. If you can, if everybody out there, just make sure you make a comment, share, like, and thanks for being on. I appreciate you very much.
Have a good one, brother.
All right, have a good one. All right, everybody, as we say here on Who's On First, what do we say? Keep swinging, and don't forget, get your shirts.
If you like the show, please do me a favor. Subscribe. Right. You see it? It's right there. Subscribe, share, like, and don't forget, put that bell on. It'll ding you when I put something else on, all right?